Welcome back to the chat, people. Never-ending sports world. Never-ending news, never-ending events, and as this last week has definitely proved once again, as advertisers it's starting to become a thing for me because I just can't cope. I'm still not over the UFC, but we will get into that. Plenty of time for that. So this week's an interesting one. So there's the NFL is obviously in the off. I say not obviously. It's in the off season, and this week is the draft. So we've got a kid now called Trevor Lawrence. I say kid, he's 21. Coming out of college. Now he's the highest rated. They normally do rate every year. They grade these guys who are coming out of the college system to go to the NFL, and he's the highest rated, one of the highest rated prospects ever. So we're talking about like an all-time generation. They call him a generational talent, which is it's pretty high praise for a 21-year-old who hasn't played in the pros yet. But they do like this guy. They're comparing him to John Elway, a legendary quarterback. So normally guys come out of college and they get compared to guys who are in the NFL at the minute. So the best in the world right now. But this guy's has been compared. Forget the guys who are in there now. We're talking all-time greats. So what I do like with all that's gone on about the American input into football with Super League and all that kind of stuff. Like one thing the Americans do well is they keep their sports on. I mean, obviously there's a lot of money in it, but they try and keep the competition going. So the worst teams every year get the first pick of these collegiate players, and obviously the college system in America across all sports is so big and so diverse and so talented that it's super important to try and draft the next Michael Jordan or the next whoever. So the worst team every year gets the best pick. This time the Jacksonville Jaguars, who've been terrible for ages, they're expected to pick this guy, Trevor Lawrence, as the first pick as a quarterback, to kind of re-energize their whole team, and they kind of build around this one guy, which, I mean, they get loads of money up front before they've even played professionally at this level. So, I guess most sports, you play in the same sort of tier of competition, and you just transfer to Man United or Real Madrid or whatever. But this time they're coming up from essentially amateur American football. Obviously, it's still high quality. Amateur American football to play in the NFL against the best, quickest, strongest guys in the world. So it's always an interesting. The draft's always sort of very hit and miss. Like even the guys who are highly rated, like Trevor Lawrence, they tend to be, a lot of them end up being busts because it's just too much pressure, too much hype. So maybe there is something to be said about declaring a 20-year-old. Potentially one of the best ever, future best ever. Bear in mind he hasn't actually played in the sport yet, in the professional level. So watch this space. Let this be if it's the first time you've ever heard of Trevor Lawrence, let's see where we go from there. Obviously this is going to be a long-term project. He's not going to jump in and start revolutionising the game, but at some point you'd expect him to really, really catch up. Moving on to our side of things, my top 4 update a few weeks ago, or even last week, whatever it was. I said last week it wasn't going well. Still not going well. In fact, it's going terribly. So, West Ham, who I had not losing a game, have now lost 2 games in a row. Liverpool, who I also had not losing a game, have now drawn both their games. So they're making me look bad. They're making me look bad. So West Ham are kind of free falling a little bit. I mean, they're not a bad team, obviously, but they lost to Newcastle, who are, I did say it before about how the teams who are fighting relegation, some of them have stuff to play for, some of them don't. Newcastle are kind of one of those teams that do have something to play for. They're kind of fighting their way back, so they're picking up some good wins. They're finding some momentum, or so as West Ham are sort of drifting off. They should still, again, this has come from me, so it probably means nothing, but she should still hang on to top 4, depending on how the other teams go. And again, with their running, there's more chances for things to go right for them. Like obviously, granted, if this has taught you anything, this means that there is a lot of a balance. Teams don't just kind of go on runs in this kind of Premier League because it's still kind of pandemic era football, no fans yet. But yeah, so West Ham and Liverpool, my 2 picks, haven't got a win between them in the 4 games they've played. So not looking good for them. Everyone else is looking pretty good. Even as far down. I mean, Tottenham obviously lost on the weekend, but they're kind of hanging on in there. There's a lot of teams who are kind of hanging on in there. Obviously, Tottenham, Everton managed to get a win and a draw. Leicester are making me look good. They're doing as they should. They're doing what they should be doing. They shouldn't be. Certainly from here, they're picking up the results they need to be. They've got a game tonight where they should be favourites again. So I mean, we'll see how they go. But I mean, Leicester I think should probably at this point take that 3rd spot because now they've got the points, they've got the momentum. Momentum being the key one. And then everyone else, Chelsea obviously beat West Ham on the weekend. They're looking good now. They're looking good all round, actually. The momentum they're picking up is really starting to show. I mean, they got beat 5-2 by West Brom not that long ago. But now they're in the Champions League semi-final. They're in the FA Cup final. And now they're also in the top 4 as it stands now. So, Chelsea looking good for it. I mean, their fixture pile-up, I predicted, hasn't quite kicked in yet. It will start to kick in because they've got the Champions League this week and next week, and then the FA Cup will be at the end of the season. So for now, it's kind of, we'll see. It's still very much we'll see. There's still entirely possible that Leicester and West Ham still get there. But as far as West Ham are going, they got a job on now because they need to actually start winning their games to make me not look like a total fraud. Speaking of frauds, or not frauds, Manchester City and Pep Guardiola won their 4th League Cup in a row on the weekend against Tottenham, who sacked Jose Mourinho on Monday. Jose Mourinho has never lost a cup final in normal times. Obviously, if it goes to extra time penalties, might have lost a few of those. But he's a master cup finalist, one-off. He's known as a one-off cup final kind of guy. If you want anyone in as your coach, you want it to be him. So they sacked him as he was about to lead them to their first, to potentially lead them to their first trophy since 2008, which is the same cup, the League Cup. They didn't look great. I mean, Harry Kane, the miraculous ankle rehabber, he rolled his ankle the game against Everton last Friday, so a week and a half ago. And somehow he's managed to shrug that off in a week and play. He wasn't, fit and firing, but I guess he probably just wanted to be out there because it's a cup final. Tottenham didn't look great as per. City didn't even need to be particularly good. They were good, but they weren't smashing goals in like they normally do. But they got the win, got it done. Spurs are now 13 years without a trophy, and North London is still red. So the people say. So I think the key, for Tottenham now, it's a problem. Like, generally speaking, they need to find the right manager. They need to do something with Harry Kane. I say do something, they need to sort that situation out because he is 100 goals away from the all-time record in the Premier League. He's only 27. He's got injury problems. And he's at a team now who he said 3 years ago, in 2017, he was like, by next 3 years if I haven't won a trophy, it'd be very disappointing. And he hasn't won a trophy. So he needs to move, in my personal opinion. The only team I see that fits his skills and all in all is Man United. For various reasons, but I won't get into those. But it just seems like he needs to get out of Tottenham, and Tottenham need to start building again and get that team chemistry back because they can't keep not winning trophies. They're a big enough team to not winning trophies. If they want to get into any future Super Leagues, they're going to need to start winning trophies. Speaking of Super Leagues, or the original, the Champions League is back, and we're at the big semi-finals now. These 2 games are going to be really good. Chelsea Real Madrid's tomorrow, I mean, Real Madrid, they're a sneaky one because they're, like I said before, they're not like they're not setting the world on fire like they used to be with Ronaldo, but they're just winning games still. They're right in there. I mean, the Spanish title race is as exciting as it gets. All those three teams, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Real Madrid, all separated by like 2 points. 7 games to go. It's anyone's title at this point. So Madrid are very much, firing, and I mean they did draw on the weekend, so that, as far as form goes, they're not like in excellent form, but they're fighting for multiple trophies, which is quite big when you look at a team going for a title as big as the Champions League. They're the kind of things you look to. Chelsea, as far as momentum goes, I mean they're right at it. Like I said, they're in the cup final, Champions League final, semi-final again. And crept into the top 4 now after so that game could be anything in my opinion. You could get, it could literally be any sort of score. I think it's going to be cagey. It's going to be settled by 1 or 2 moments. It's not going to be like the other semi-finals. It's going to be more tactical. I mean, Chelsea are a very good defensive team. Madrid have been there before. I mean, they've won multiple Champions Leagues, so the experience would probably suggest they've got it. But listen, Chelsea are well in that. I don't think I could really call that. I'd say Madrid are probably favourites, just because of their standing. Well, in the Champions League and in their own domestic league, they're right in there to, win a very good double. But it's a close one. I think Chelsea should be a very, very good game. The very, very good game out of the two is PSG and Man City, who are for sure the two form teams, 2 best teams in the Champions League and probably in Europe. PSG are they've won, I think it's 7 French leagues in a row. So they're used to just dominating the French league without much competition. This year they've not had it their own way for whatever reason. They're more sort of, battling back and forth with it. But this year, they're given all the battles they're having, their main focus obviously is every year is the Champions League. They've been smashing through the Champions League. Now they come up against City, who, like, if there's a year that the City should be winning it, it should be this one. But they've got to get through PSG over 2 legs, and then whoever they get in the final of Madrid and Chelsea. But that is definitely the one to look for. If there's a game to watch, obviously it's on BT. Most people don't have BT Sports, but if there's a game to try and watch, that is the one. And then obviously next week's one's going to be the return leg in Manchester. So yeah, very much looking forward to those two. More so than the Europa League. I say more so. Obviously it's my teams in it, but Man U and Roma are both kind of. I mean, obviously United are second in the Premier League. Roma, I think 7th in the Italian league. Again, it's probably the trickier out of the 2 semi-finals. So the other one's Arsenal and Villarreal. Roma could pose some problems, but again, it's sort of a weird one because it's the whole point of playing in the Europa League for some teams is just to get back into the Champions League, and obviously for Man United's point of view, they need to win a trophy at some point. With Ole Solskjaer as the manager and with this new kind of team that's gaining momentum. Like, we're clearly the second best performing team in England, getting back to where we kind of were. We did win the Europa League a couple of years ago with Jose Mourinho, and then kind of regressed a bit, and then just keep losing semi-finals. So United are in a bit of a bad habit of losing semi-finals. So yeah, including last year. So last year we lost the semi-final of the Europa League. So hopefully, from a United fan's point of view, we get it done this week. Arsenal probably need a trophy more than Man United, honestly, and the bonus of getting into the Champions League next year that Man United don't need. So yeah, Arsenal definitely need it at this point more, because United should get in there anyway. But that's double whammy for Arsenal. But they're in Europe. They're very hit and miss. But the last week's game was impressive. Even though it was Slavia Prague, not exactly a powerhouse, but they're getting there. But they're so wildly inconsistent. You just never know who's gonna get out of that one. Villarreal, who they're playing, again 7th in La Liga in Spain. That one's the close one. That one's the Madrid. That's the Madrid Chelsea equivalent in terms of how close the teams are. It could really go either way, or Arsenal could just dominate it. Who knows? But yeah, that'd be what, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. So I'll touch on the Super League before I get into the rest of it, because obviously I filmed last week in the midst of everything kicking off. It was about a day old and things were up in the air, not too sure what was going on. That evening, or the next evening, Tuesday evening, was when it all blew up and kind of came to a head, and then was kind of leveled out slightly since. So the last time I spoke, it was announced that the 12 teams were going to be in it. The 6 Premier League teams were going to be in it. Absolute uproar all day Monday. Protests broke out. So we had protests at Stamford Bridge on the Tuesday, and it's kind of hard to point to a moment, but I think after the second full day of absolute outrage, I think all the Premier League teams for sure were like, we can't really continue with this because we're going to have riots on our hands, actual riots. So Chelsea were the first team in general, but also the first Premier League team to indicate they were going to pull out of it. Man City were next. They actually did come out of it. They said, right, okay, we don't need this, we're out. And then later that night, all the others, so Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool and United all pulled out of it. So as it stands, and then since, I can't remember exactly how many are out now. I don't think there's many left in it. I think Atletico Madrid are out and AC Milan are out. So 8 out of the 12 teams are definitely out. The Spanish teams are holding on. Atletico Madrid are out, as well. So I think it's the 2 Spanish teams and Inter Milan. So Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter Milan. If I should actually look that one up. But yeah, I believe that those are the 3 that are left. They're hanging on, trying to make this thing viable. So it's not, all guns blazing, all full steam ahead. But the English teams said they're out. But then the president of the European Super League, who's also the Madrid president, who's kind of being put up as this sort of is the bad guy now, which he's the bad guy, I suppose, of this Super League thing. He's saying it's still going to go ahead in some form. They're just going to try and work it out. But he's also said they've signed binding contracts, which I guess everyone knew, because you don't just sign up to this thing and just have a without any sort of like binding agreement. So it'd be interesting over the next however long to see if the English teams can get out of it. Like, they want to get out of it, but they might have to pay massive fines to withdraw, or which would kind of serve them right, to be honest, for jumping into something without telling any of the fans. So watch this space as far as that's concerned. Under the guise of, under the cover of the Super League, when that was all blowing up, UEFA chucked forward a new Champions League proposal, which is kind of the reason why these teams wanted to do the Super League. But one of the reasons is because they didn't like the Champions League format. They wanted a more, obviously it's mainly greed-based, not literally they wanted a better competition. They wanted obviously to make more money and always be in it. But one of the smaller reasons, a reason people don't focus on so much, is the Champions League itself does need a revamp. So the format that we have now does need a bit of a tweak, a bit of a kind of an update to make it more interesting. And the version that UEFA have put forward is pretty bad. It's not far off this Super League proposal. Obviously, you do still qualify, but UEFA have put in that there's 2 spots available for teams, the highest rated teams who don't qualify. So typically that's going to be English teams, because Spain, Italy, in Spain and Italy and Germany, the best teams don't normally miss out because there's such a monopoly in those leagues. So Real Madrid aren't going to miss out on the Champions League because there's not nobody's going to push them out of the top 4 in Spain. Like, it's almost impossible unless they have an absolute nightmare, which is hard to do when you're in a league like that. So it's kind of a positive for the Premier League that it's so competitive, that you have teams like Man U, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool missing out on the Champions League, because you get teams like Leicester and West Ham potentially that can make it. So watch this space. It's going to be. I'm not going to keep going on about it because I'm kind of bored of it. I'll be honest. And that's just me talking. People, I think, being a dead horse. It's just kind of keep talking about Super League this, Super League that. It's kind of it's dead and buried as far as the English motivation goes. It's all out in the open now. Now it's a case of who's going to get punished, because the Premier League teams are talking about punishing the six, and UEFA are talking about punishing all of them. So, we'll see how that progresses. But for now, it's kind of more settled. People are going to still talk about it because they're going to try and get clickbait, and Sky Sports News are going to talk about it. But for now, it's kind of more settled until we find out what's going to happen with these contracts and what fines are going to be handed out. But that's Super League kind of put a cap in for now. This weekend, Formula One's back. So it's going to be round 3 in Portimao, Portugal. So it's a track they went to for the first time in like 15 years. Last year, because obviously the pandemic, they had to find new tracks that could accommodate all of these new races. So Portimao was one. Turned out to be a dominant race for Mercedes, and Hamilton won it by 30 seconds, which is the biggest margin for a while. But obviously, as you know, this year Red Bull are better. That last race was towards the end of the season. It was round 12 in that championship. So Red Bull were kind of on their way. So it does kind of stand to reason that, if Mercedes were pretty good on it last year, Red Bull were also pretty good on it last year, that would still be the case this year. I mean, clearly, it's a two-team race. It's going to be literally Verstappen Hamilton every week, which is great. I'm looking forward to seeing how Mercedes can kind of respond, because clearly they're on the back foot, especially after last week. But last week, I guess, would be considered a win, given that Hamilton was in the gravel looking at no points, and they managed to get second and keep the championship lead. So that's going to be interesting this weekend. And then, like I said, last week, we've got 3 races in the month of May. Well, including this Sunday, so 3 races in the month of May. So we're really going to see what the momentum's like, where the championship people are kind of situated. So watch this space for Formula One post-race show next week. And we should be, hopefully, as advertised, continues. I expect it to. And I guess we'll see. Speaking of as advertised, mentioned at the beginning, still recovering from how unbelievable that UFC card was on the weekend. I mean, when I was breaking it down in my last video, it looked like the matchups looked really good, in terms of what they meant and the fighters involved in them, and obviously the fact that there's 3 title fights is always going to be good. But often is the case, it's never, it doesn't quite work out that way most of the time. It's sort of, they become disappointments, or they become long 5-round decisions and not really that interesting. This one was interesting from the word go. Like, the very first fight was Jimmy Crute and Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, we were saying, needed a good performance, was putting on a good performance, was doing pretty well. Landed a leg kick. It's the year of the leg kicks. Like, if you've been following sort of the fights and the kind of the key headlines of UFC so far this year, leg kicks are gonna be the one, because McGregor got hit by a lot of them, and he ended up kind of bringing notice to it, and it was more sort of I guess everyone's been aware of it, but I guess he kind of was the first one to be like, this leg kick hurt, and everyone started to kind of analyse leg kicks and how effective they were and all that kind of thing. So he was the first back in January. So Anthony Smith landed his leg kick on Jimmy Crute just below, just round about the knee, back of the knee, shut his leg off. He collapsed on the spot, but then he got up and his ankle was rolling in and out. But Crute managed to overcome that, land a couple of takedowns on Smith, and at the end of the round, he gets back to his corner as his ankle was just like rolling in and out. It's like literally made of elastic. It's rolling in and out. And he stands up to start round 2, and he's rolling some more. So the doctors had to wave it off. That was pretty insane. I've never seen a leg react like that to leg kicks. So Smith looked good. Crute is might be. I don't know what, they haven't said anything about the damage yet, but you'd expect it's more than just like a nerve thing. I'd imagine it's probably some damage in there. So he'll come back. It's a bit of a win-win because he handled it well, and Smith looked good before that. So it's a bit of a win-win as far as reputation goes for those two. One that wasn't a win-win was the very next fight. So it's Uriah Hall and Chris Weidman, former champion at middleweight. It's the first fight in UFC history that the winner has won without landing a strike. And on the topic of leg kicks, like if you've got a strong stomach, Google Chris Weidman leg injury. The fight starts, she's kind of fainting. Weidman throws a leg kick and connects with Uriah Hall's knee. His leg wraps round Hall's knee, complete, like it snaps in half. And the sad irony of that is Chris Weidman arguably is most famous for beating Anderson Silva. So the first time he beat Anderson Silva, who's considered one of the greatest of all time, Anderson Silva was kind of clowning around, and Weidman kind of clipped him with a shot and knocked him out. The rematch was like, okay, cool, Anderson Silva's going to take it seriously now. Anderson Silva broke his leg in the same way on Chris Weidman all those years ago, and that was kind of like the defining moment for both of them. So the saddest irony is that Weidman's career is probably over now because he broke his leg, which I've only ever seen two. I've only ever seen 2 leg breaks from leg kicks. Because people throw leg kicks all the time, like I said earlier, and you can check the leg kicks, which means you block them with your leg, and to lessen the pain. But I've only ever seen 2 leg breaks, and they've both involved Chris Weidman. So it was super sad. It was bad. It was as bad as a leg break as I've ever seen in any sport ever. So he could well be done. I mean, it's possible to come back from it if he really wants to come back for it, but we're talking years, long time out. So at this point, 2 fights in, we've had 2 leg injuries, but the fights were good. The first fight was pretty good, and it's just insane. I think the irony of that leg break for Weidman was just absolutely insane. Then we move into one of the first title fights. Valentina Shevchenko mauled Jessica Andrade, really. Like the gulf in class was bigger than I expected. Shevchenko looked great the whole way, just throwing her around, getting her down, ground and pound. Got her into positions called mounted crucifix, so both your arms are pinned and just landing elbows, just completely busting her face up. So Shevchenko retains the title again. There's not a lot of competition for her division. The only fight really that people are saying is to go up and fight the greatest of all time, female greatest of all time, Amanda Nunes, Nunes has beaten Shevchenko twice already. So Shevchenko's got better, Nunes has got a lot better. I don't think we should do that, just because I think keeping champions at their own weight is a good idea. I think people are too eager to have these super fights just for spectacle, rather than having these 2 girls just build their own legacies. They've already fought twice, and then Nunes has won both. There's no need to, try again and see if you can lose again. So, yeah, Shevchenko looked great. Another dominant performance. Another title fight win. The very next fight, Rose Namajunas beat Wei Li Zhang, who's just come off fight of the century against Joanna Jędrzejczyk last year. Rose held that particular belt before she got beaten by Andrade, who just got beat by Shevchenko on Saturday. So Rose got the win back over Andrade. So she got she got thrown on her head basically and knocked out by Andrade. And then the very next fight, she got her revenge. So this is the title fight she's earned. And absolutely beautiful head kick. It was so like graceful and skillful. It wasn't like a violent head kick. It was just a land up top, head like connected with Zhang straight away, knocked her out straight away. A very emotional sort of moment because the crowd were going nuts. I mean, the crowd, I will mention that, I forgot to mention that. Having the crowds back in MMA, it's just night and day. Like, you get used to watching it without, but man, the crowd, they were going crazy. I mean, first of all, after the other 3 fights, the atmosphere was great, but this one, because everyone really wanted Rose to get back, she's, one of the good guys, so to speak. People really like her. She does it the right way. Good sports woman. But yeah, super emotional. She was in tears. Everyone was in tears. Joe Rogan was in tears. Like, beautiful knockout. She gets the belt back in one of the best knockouts in UFC history. Certainly this year, knockout of the year potentially this year, which led us into the main event, which did not disappoint at all. Usman defends the belt again, so he's on 4 title defenses now, which is 5 short of the all-time record for GSP. He's got 14 wins in a row in the UFC. Like, he's just winning non-stop, and he's beating really good guys. Like, he's not just beating people here and there. Like, he's beating, all his greatest rivals, and then he's beating, he's fighting them as and when, and he's finishing them, and he's looking so dominant. So I mean, for him, he's on his way to becoming the greatest of all time. Period. Like, not even the best. He should be now number 1 pound for pound in the UFC, but the way he looked against Masvidal, who had a good first round. Masvidal was looking quite decent. Usman was kind of throwing some wild shots, but you knew there was levels to this game. Usman's a great wrestler, and he's a very, very good striker now. So when you're both, the opponent's got to make note of both, the wrestling potential getting taken down and also the striking. So Masvidal was doing okay at that. He was having some good moments in the clinch when they're together, the grappling. But the second round came, and Usman just set up this right hand, just unbelievable knockout. Just for so many reasons, it was so, it's a good way to end this kind of feud rivalry that's been going on for a little while. I think now that Usman's beaten him twice, and he's finished him in the second round now, everyone's had full camp, they've all been prepared. Just to cap off a night that was, and to have fans back for that one was just insane. Like, it's almost like all the stars aligned. Unfortunately, some of the negatives being Weidman's broke his leg, and Crute obviously got badly injured. But the storylines surrounding the 3 winners in the title fights were perfect, like really, really perfect. So, I think everyone's kind of really galvanised for this summer with more fans. And they're going back to the Apex Arena, the training facility where they do most of the fights over the pandemic, just because not every state in America is allowing fans. But the summer is looking now. I mean, get Conor McGregor back out there, the lightweight championship back out there. Israel Adesanya's fighting. Yeah, a bit of news there. Israel Adesanya is now fighting Vettori, who won last week for the belt. They're fighting it in June, so 6 weeks, 8 weeks time. So that one should probably have fans as well. But yeah, we're looking at exciting time with fans. The League Cup final with Tottenham and City also had fans. They're starting to get some more fans back across the world. So I think, we've kind of been used to it for a year, not having fans, just because you want to see some kind of sport. We'll have whatever's on, but having the fans back, you kind of forget how great sporting moments are basically made from the fans. As cringe as people have made it sound about this is for the fans and stuff. Like, when you watch sport, we're not just trying to find out who the best football team on the planet is, just because we need to write that down. It's about everyone enjoying the sport, and certainly with combat sports, people just go nuts. There's no sort of as my thumbnail. So people just, there's a different kind of emotion with fighting. When fans are back, it's just insane. So very much looking forward to more sporting events with the fans being back and making improving these already great moments. So incredible week, incredible weekend. Lots more on this week, lots more on next week. We're kind of getting into more, lots of different sports are kind of opening back up. So more to come. But appreciate watching again. Another meaty episode to get yourself into. Again, like, subscribe. It helps me out if you can. And I'll see you very soon.